It's Real Fit Radio with B
and J.LOU.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You deserve to be happy, not confused and uncertain. That actually just popped up on my phone as I was looking for a quote to say. So somebody out there deserves that one. Straight to the point.
Straight to it. Yeah, so you deserve to be happy, not confused
or uncertain.
That's really an interesting quote for this time because there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty right now. And I believe it. You do deserve to be happy. You got to fight for your joy though, huh? Wow. That's interesting for the time that we're in. Well, we're back and most of the Thanksgiving stuff is gone. We pretty much have detoxed, taken out the cheese, the meat, the noodles, or the pasta. So I wasn't feeling bad, but my stomach definitely feels like it's back to normal again. So we're getting ready for another holiday. People are Christmas shopping now. Like it is officially begun. We are in December. The Christmas lights are up now.
Oh yeah.
The Christmas music is playing and yeah, people are shopping and yeah, this has been an interesting year. I'm already jumping into January now because it's going so quickly and well, I think it's happening everywhere, but we're back under a stay-at-home order. No more dining outside. They're shutting some things down again. I'm having a brain freeze here. I want to say personal care, but more so like, for example, hair, salons, barbers. I believe that's for pedicure and manicure as well. I drove by today and I saw that was closed and it was in the middle of the day, so they're usually open. So all that stuff is closed again. And they said it's just until the 28th and hopefully stuff will open back up before the new year. So we will see.
What was the point if you was just going to do it till the 28th? But, well,
they said that they need to kind of give everybody to kind of step back so the numbers can go down for COVID cases because they said they're higher than they were even in the beginning. But I have a whole lot to say, but that's not what I want to focus on.
Oh, no,
tonight,
not at all. It was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I just rolling with the punches, just figuring it out one day at a time. So we are going to do what we came to do. We're going to jump into this podcast. I'm just excited that we're still able to do it. The momentum and the energy is here. So, yeah. It's here. So, I got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. Of course, yesterday, I don't know if you thought we probably weren't going to talk about it. I was thinking about it still today. Since we still are limited, I'm usually out and about exploring. And so this year has been really interesting for me. I'm a creative consultant, so there are new things that I go check out, just connecting with people in that way. I need to be up on the latest, not just events, just everything. I'm a natural explorer. So this year has been really crazy because I don't have access to a lot of things. So on my spare time, I've been going down the rabbit hole. If you listen to a previous podcast, I went down the paternity court hole at one point, and as of recent, now I'm on divorce court. So that is interesting to watch. So divorce has been on my mind, and not so much as to specific to us, of course, because you'd probably like, newsflash. This is the first time hearing of it. But
I know you've been watching that show. Has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. But divorce court is so, I think it's crazy enough sometimes to just take my mind off of the craziness that's going on. So I just kind of escape into it. But some of the stuff you hear on there is so interesting. The issues that some of the couples are having and how it's like, we're getting divorced. I just can't take it anymore. You watched one of the women the other day where she said her husband was a hoarder and he was great to the kids. Her mother liked him, but she just seemed really controlling, almost so like, I just need for you to do this my way. You need to tell me this because then I'll tell you if you can do it or if you can't do it. And that was one case. And there was another case where the guy was upset because they had been married twice. They were married once, separated, then remarried. And his issue was she would go to her kids whenever they called her. She was there for her sister when she was in hospital and she ended up eventually eventually dying of cancer, but she was by her side the whole time. His issue was, you're always jumping up helping your family. It's always something. So I was looking at all that and I just kept thinking, man, did they ever have a period of time where they got to kind of like know each other? Or these are questions that came up. I understand some stuff is just like divorce has to happen, but most of the cases that I saw on there, remember the one where she was talking about when you leave and you say you're going to be back home, that's not 5:05, 5:07. You need to be back at 5. Or if he was out with his friends, she was like popping up, checking on him or turning off the game. It just seemed like people weren't willing to work through issues. And also, I don't think they really knew each other.
Well, based on what I've seen, it was a combination of not knowing each other and one party just being outright selfish and wanting stuff done their way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, I know it's different for everybody, but divorce, when I would look at things even before I got married, I wanted that not to be an option on the table. Like, we can figure it out. We can work through it. Like, it's got to be something we can do. But I do understand sometimes people are just incompatible, and they learn that after spending that amount of time together. But there was a relationship on there where they had been together for 10 years. And then remember, they got married and they divorced within the same 24 hours. They had been together for 10 years. They got married. And then, like he said, it was even less than 24 hours. She put him out. She went her separate ways. And they were actually seeing each other again for the first time in 2 years on divorce court.
Yeah, I remember that segment. That one was a little weird. The other ones were pretty much the way I see everything when we have these discussions. A lot of these people don't know each other when they first date or when they're talking to each other. So they learn a lot about each other once everything is done, which is ass backwards. I think you definitely need to take your time and get to know that person before you take that next step, because once you go into marriage, and not just the whole sacred thing, till death do you part, according to some of the things you've told me, it's harder to get divorced than it is to get married. You might want to take that into consideration when you're all of a sudden get married. In a couple of those cases, those people got married after a couple weeks or a couple months of knowing each other. Like, one, I think they knew each other for 3 weeks or a month. The one with the guy who had the gambling issue, they knew each other for like 3 weeks and they got married. The other two cases, they were like in cahoots for maybe a couple of months, nothing over a year. Everything was a few months or a few weeks. The only one that was, like I said, awkward was the one where they were dating for 10 years or talking and knew each other for 10 years. At least they said they did. And they got married, and then in that same day, they got divorced. That was the only one that was kind of like, what the hell? How does that happen? But the other ones were typical. People get infatuated with whatever the representative is, and they end up getting in a relationship, then transition into marriage. And then you hear these stories 5-6 years down the road that they getting the divorce because of he's like this or she's like that. It didn't start this way. She was so nice or he was so this. He used to take me out. Well, yeah, of course. When somebody's trying to get whatever it is they're getting from you, whether it's attention, sex, I don't know what the end game is for some people or a lot of people, but ultimately people want to be liked. So of course I'm gonna put my best foot forward, but you have to understand that at some point, and I've said this before on a recent podcast, you won't know everything about that individual, but you can get a big enough sample size on somebody to understand whether or not, like, okay, I can move forward with this. And in the event that something doesn't grow right, I'm okay with the outcome. As opposed to some of these situations you look at like you knew it was bad going into it. Specifically on this show, I won't speak in reality terms or outside of that show. A lot of times people get in those situations and they know they have a list of what it is, or as you call it, deal breakers and non-negotiables, and they see a cute face or they see somebody that has a little money and they're financially stable. And it's like, well, he's a little controlling, but I can get over that because of this part. Or, man, she sure know how to have an attitude, but it's cute because she looks good. And then you get into a relationship and that's all you dealing with. It's like, oh, nah, this ain't so cute no more. So it happens a lot. And those cases pretty much exemplify what we see or what we hear all the time.
Yeah, some of the cases on there, they were already having issues before they got married, and they got married anyway. So it's just interesting to watch. When I say it's entertaining, it clearly, as I stated before, it takes my mind off of all the stuff because I'm a thinker. I will start thinking 1,000 things and getting on a computer and seeing if this is going to open, well, can I do this? And if we go a little further out. So I just try to keep my mind in La La Land sometimes. It's chaotic, but I'll go and immerse myself in some other craziness. But just to kind of go back on one of the things you said, the deal breakers and non-negotiables, I was sitting over here thinking about it. That is something I would say to anyone. If you're arguing in the beginning, is that something you're going to be willing to take into the marriage? And it's like, hey, we didn't even resolve this before we got into the marriage, and I'm okay with that. You got to know what you're willing to go the distance with. And sometimes people renege on the things they said they wouldn't do or the commitment that they made. But it can happen. It's unfortunate, but it's a part of life. And that's stuff that's out of your control. But the stuff I think that is in your control, and just from watching the show, make sure you communicate what are some things that you were just not up for. This is a definite no. I'm not working through it. It's just not happening. This is not what I'm going to have or what I see myself having as a part of our marriage. I'm okay with it. And vice versa. Be open to hearing what their thoughts are, what their expectations are of marriage, and be comfortable with having those dialogues. Because whether you have them in the beginning, it's going to come up. At some point it's gonna come up, because some stuff on there was just like, what? I like to have my friends over. I'm sorry that Scrabble is a bad thing. It was just some interesting things on there. One case, which would kind of take me to the other thing that I wanted to talk about, where the guy was 26 and he met the girl when she was 16, and she said that she wasn't honest about her age. I'm assuming she must have told him that she was 18, because she just said, I lied about my age. She didn't say what age she said, but she was 16, and they ended up getting married. And one of the issues they had on there, she was saying that he created a sex contract. And the way he explained it was, the sex contract was created because there were periods of time that would go on, I don't know if it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever, where there was no sex happening between the two of them. So he had her sign a contract where it needed to happen, I think 3 times a week or every other day. And if you missed a day, she had to double up. I was just like, wow. So that too, I was thinking about, and I mean, I'm not going to go down what they were talking about on there, but that whole sex contract, requesting sex, all that, I was just like, wow, how does that look for for people? And that was just interesting to me, because I don't think there's anything wrong with requesting sex. I wouldn't go as far as the contract, but sometimes people are just kind of off, or you might be going through some things. I think it's okay to kind of pull your partner's coattails, or however you want to do it, whether you just say it or you try to initiate it, but let them know that that's where you're at. And I think that's like a low level request. You can start with the cues, and the signals, and however you want to do it. But if nothing's happening, then I think it's okay, being in a marriage, to outright say that there's a need, that I need for you to meet this need, because it is a part of marriage. Do you think that takes away, it feels forced, or it's like, ooh, this is not even intimacy anymore, this is work? What are your thoughts on the sex contract or requesting sex?
The sex contract.
And the man, before you say it, initiated the sex contract, because he was saying women have all these emotions going on sometimes and they don't feel like it and all that. So he was making like, men have needs. So I was just like, wow.
I do have a open thought about that, because a lot of times when the sex issue comes into play, it's always viewed as the man that's in need of sex. And it's like, oh yeah, well, men have needs. Yeah, we do. And then we make a false perception like women are always going through things and they're not in the mood. It's not always the woman. Sometimes males go through things just as much as women, and women are sexually active and like, hey, I need my need met and you over there tripping. Like, what's the deal? Like, can I get some action? And I know for me, sometimes I'm on the flip side of that coin where it's not necessarily I'm the one that's requiring the need. It's more or less like, in my mind, my money ain't right. I can't do this right here. Like, I'm over here focused on how to be financially independent. I get it. That's something that you have to work towards, and you just have to be patient. And I'm referring to the money part. So you can't be using it as an excuse, because if you continue to do that and where you're like, oh, you're focused on it, it's not always cheating women or this guy is over here doing it. I understand if somebody's withholding long periods of time, at some point I do understand, well, okay, he got to be getting it from somewhere, or he's relieving himself somehow. Like, it ain't no way in hell this man, why would you be married to me if you don't find me sexually attractive and we lay in this bed 30 days a month and nothing goes down ever for the most part. So trust me, I understand. I just wanted to clear that up about it being always the woman who's emotionally out of her game for the sex part. Men can sometimes be off their game for different reasons, and I know for me it usually is because my money ain't right, and I ain't trying to do that, and I ain't trying to invest my time into the act. But I know that can be selfish if you do that too long, because you can't just be in that hole forever. It's kind of like being depressed every day. So it's nothing wrong with requesting. I don't mind it at all. It doesn't strike me as a chore. I think you can recognize when somebody is like, okay, I'm doing this because they feel like they have to do it. And I'm pretty sure a woman can tell when a guy's not into doing whatever it is that's going down at that particular moment. You could tell that their mind is somewhere else, especially if you've been with somebody a long periods of time. You start dealing with somebody on some years and you really start paying attention to their disposition. You can tell when somebody's doing something and then they doing something. So short answer, I definitely don't feel like it's viewed as a chore when somebody requests. You just get with the shit. It's like, okay, this is what we doing. But the other part I want to add to that as well is I also understand when you say you don't want to be the person that's always initiating as well, because that can start to play on a psyche of the person that's always being the initiator. It's like, at some point I want you to want me, even though I know you with the get down when it happens. Why do I always have to start it? In my growth, I understand that as well too, where that could be viewed as a problem. I know for me, sometimes I think about that because, especially as a man in my college days, I used to always be the person that tried to make the girl initiate, because we already get a bad rap for all men wanted sex. All men wanted sex. So I psyched myself out to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, I want it, but I have enough control to sit my ass over here and not initiate nothing unless you started first. So I think as I got older, I took it overboard and I never switch back to like, okay, it's all right to be on both sides where you're the one giving the initiation and they don't always have to do it. So I don't know if anybody else had that type of thought process, but I know I did going into adulthood and hearing all the things about all men want to do is have sex. No, wait a minute, y'all want to do it too. So to let it be known, I'm gonna just sit back then if that's the case. And then here we are today. But what are your thoughts on what you asked me?
Oh, I said my viewpoint. I don't think it's anything wrong with requesting on the low level. And I said the low level, if it's subtle hints or, you set the mood, whatever gets you go. And then if that's not happening, then you can actually communicate the request like this needs to happen. I think when you're with someone over a period of time, you kind of can gauge, just like there's some men I've seen growing up, and you've seen it on movies too, if you don't interact with men like that. There are men that know their wives, their sisters, their daughters' menstrual cycle. They know it how the woman would know it herself. Like, oh, I know that around this time we got to get pads for the girls, or isn't it about that time? So I feel like when you're in a relationship and you're being attentive, you have a gauge. Time can pass, but I think that if you're in tune and nurturing the relationship, and I understand that things can happen, you can get busy, just mentally kind of gone, I still feel like that's something on your to-do list where it's like, let me check back in on my relationship, just like you check the oil in your car. Because if you drive in a car and you don't have any oil, you can blow your engine, right? So if you're not checking on your relationship like that, the oil light's on, that's the subtle low level hints. And at some point the engine blows, and that could be somebody emotionally cheating, physically cheating, or they just don't even want to deal anymore. Whatever the individual is led to do because of what's happening, it's a byproduct of that. But I feel like I don't see anything wrong with a sex request. The contract part was a bit much for me.
Overkill.
Yeah, I'm not putting, when I think of contracts, those are in place because if you don't, I'm going to exercise or bring to your remembrance, no, you said you would pay on this date. Contractually, you owe this many payments for the car. That's some stuff like legal docs where we go into court. I'm not taking somebody to court behind, sex. What happens if you don't do it? It's like, no, we got the contract right here. And if you don't do what you said, I'm taking you to court. I'm filing papers this week. What's it contingent upon? You don't fulfill the obligation of this contract. What do we begin the process of divorce, or do you take things from me? Usually when you have contracts in place, there's a consequence and repercussion for not fulfilling the obligation of the contract, right? So how does that work? So the contract, no, like that's crazy to me. If I gotta put somebody on a contract, I don't need to be with you. That may work for someone else, but for me,
I wasn't
no.
gonna say well in the sense of I agreed with it. I was gonna say that's almost equivalent to, I guess, how people view prenuptials.
Yeah, and those are tricky too. That would be another topic altogether, but I've thought about this and I kind of understand it. I think if you tailor it a specific way, for instance, let's say you've amassed millions,
before you met the person.
Yeah, you're a billionaire. And if you're a billionaire, you got it. You know what I'm saying? But still, you worked hard for that, or whatever you had to do to get to where you are, the level of success and the amount of money you've amassed. Like, you did that. And you end up marrying someone that's not in the same tax bracket as you. At that point, I think even before you get into that, you need to have an idea if that's a big thing for you. Like, is money an issue? And I don't even want to say an issue. Is it important to where it's like, I don't want you to have any of this in the event that we separate? I think that coming together in the union, for us, like, we have life insurance policies, we have accident insurance, we have things in place where if something happens to you, vice versa, something happens to me, there are things in place that I know will go to you, and there are things you put in place to go to me because we care for each other, and you want to make sure, like, I want to make sure you're straight. We would create it. It wouldn't just be like cut and dry where prenup, this is my money, and whatever you came with in the event that we separate, that's what you leave with. I would want to have something that became ours. So I probably would have something set aside where that's still going to my family, charities, whatever it is, that's untouched. But this is ours. Coming into this union because you're an asset to each other. I'm bringing 10 million to the table. That's what I'm coming to the table when we get married. And I'm open to that for both of us. Like, that's ours. Because I feel like the caliber of man that I'm falling in love with, it's not, if I had it, fine. If I didn't, but I'm worth so much more to him. And then there are things that we're going to amass together. And those things aren't under a prenup. So you could do it a couple of ways. You could say, we're going to do some investing together. This is what I'm willing to come to the table with. And you might create the business plan. I'm not against the prenup. I just think it shouldn't be just a cut where it's like, we're getting together, but you don't get any of my stuff. But we're together. I love you, but I need you to sign this because in the event that this does not work, you will not get anything from me. All that is mine. That's just weird going in. I would come in where some things were probably already in place, but if it's like, I want to make sure these are in place because you're coming into something that exists and this has already been set aside for my family members. This is what I have already. I want going to charities. These are things I would want to happen because I amassed this money by myself. And these are things that I feel like have to happen because these are my wishes. But for you and I, this portion is coming into the marriage because we're married. So this part is ours. This part is not ours. If I was going to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree because with the marriages that I've seen via internet, I can see why these guys definitely need a prenup. But I never really thought about it like that. But that makes absolute sense. If I was this multi-million-dollar guy, oh yeah, of course, in my mind, if we're not on the same playing field financially, it doesn't mean that I'm not in love with you or anything like that. But I feel like there should be a cut in there because I don't feel like somebody should give somebody half. It doesn't matter who it is on the opposite end. You shouldn't get half because you're married to me at this point. Now, the way I like to operate is exactly the plan that I didn't even think of that you just put out there. From this multi-million-dollar guy, yeah, we can start out like, hey, this right here is for over there, but this 15 million right here, in the event that nothing happens from this point, you're entitled to that.
Yeah.
Or we can split that in half because that's us starting our union together, and anything that we grow after that 15 million, we cut 50-50 down the middle.
I'm okay with that.
But that goes back to what you said. You have to know that individual, and it ties all these topics back into play, from the divorce topic that we started out with to the sexual request to the prenup. You don't know everything about that individual, but damn it, you got to give yourself enough time to assess the situation to where in the event that something don't work out, you're okay with the L.
You kind of like what I tell the kids. It's like, they got me. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay
with that.
I'm okay with more if you got me and it's like, dang, I did my due diligence. You had me fooled. You really got me. You know, not saying that way, but you earned it. You know what I mean? But you kind of know when it's like, I went into this head first. I didn't want to hear what anybody was saying. Almost just even in reference to what you said a few moments back, where you said, some of the stuff I see, some people need these prenups. I know some of the people you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're meeting, the men specifically, because I know you're talking about some of the men, the way that they met some of these women, and that's a whole nother podcast we've done, they know what's up. I mean, the women that they're entertaining, you know, it's like I'm taking her on trips, buying her bags. She's on Instagram. That's what she does. I mean, you knew when you got with her what it was, you know, so you have to respect it. I'm exactly who I was when you got with me. I like expensive things. I'm going to be a trophy on your arm. You know, I didn't come to the table with anything except look at me. This is it. So you can't be mad at that.
No.
And you can't try to make it more than what it is. Don't be upset. Don't say, why aren't you coming to the table with ideas? Why don't you support me? Why can't we have a stimulating conversation? You don't communicate. All you want to do is party. I know what guys you're talking about, because that's what she was doing when you met her. So
never showed you anything else.
Yeah, you pay your taxes. Pay your stupid taxes. My mom used to say that. Pay your stupid taxes. Pay them, because you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. If I got with someone that was just, oh my God, he's just gorgeous, everything physically that I want, and he modeled from time to time, and I'm just saying because we're in the age of social media, I had access to his resume, which is Instagram sometimes in a sense, but I knew he was known for being on the party scene. He frequents all the clubs. He's the it guy. He does some modeling here and there, but he has a reputation. Nothing specific, not a reputation for investments, not a reputation as a businessman, a successful entrepreneur, started his own. No, he's just that guy. You know, it's like, what guy? Who are you? And not so much as notoriety, but who are you, meaning what do you do? And we see them all the time. You know, we've looked at some people before and I'm like, what exactly does she do? And why do all these guys keep entertaining her? She's just hopping from guy to guy to guy. And we can look at the page and it's like, it's like Instagram vixens, like how they used to have video vixens. These are vixens. They're men that really desire to be with these women and they pay, but don't. And I'm going into that segment. Don't be upset about a person being exactly who they were when you got with them. So, yeah. Prenups. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm for it. We can tailor it, though, for us. And I think anybody that loves me would understand that. Like, oh, okay, we're going to start off with the 10. Yeah, and let's do what we doing with it. That's dope. Like, I think that's amazing for us to want to invest something together. How are we going to grow this? This is how we're starting. Almost like back in the day when they got a dowry, it was given to them when they were married. Mm-hmm. I think the woman's family gave the dowry and stuff. They put everything. I might be saying it wrong, but I know that you receive things. So it's like, let's invest. Let's do something with this. I think that will kind of be fun. Like, what could we make together?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like we were given a gift when we got married. If someone said, here's $1 million to get your start. What are we going to do with it? You know, that would be fun because that's not available to us. But this is, and I can kind of see where your mind's at. I'm not, you're not just going to be sitting there. You don't come to the table with anything. It's like you don't have any ideas, any thoughts about how we should do this.
You could be the best person in the world, but you can't come in with zero and I'm coming in here with the financial backing of everything. And it's like, because I rock with you, we gonna start like this. And because I have this personality to make sure that everybody around me can elevate themselves, this is the idea that we want to run. You know, so no, I think that was was an excellent way of putting it. When I think of contracts, I'm thinking of music contracts and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, you can negotiate, restructure contracts. Never thought about restructuring a prenup.
You can restructure anything, but it'll also tell you a lot about the person, because there's some, I know
somebody will get mad about.
Yes, I know somebody would, and that right there would be the deal breaker, the non-negotiable for me. Are you serious right now? You had nothing. You telling me about what you want? We need more. Okay. You're not even thinking about how to grow what we're going to start with, and you didn't have to do anything to get. That's a deal breaker for me. That's when it's like, yeah, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
You know how much discipline it would have for somebody who was quote unquote in love to say, yeah, this was a non-negotiable and deal breaker that they had to go back to their list and see when that moment happened.
Oh,
and you're about to cross the threshold.
No. That's all before. Just like people get premarital counseling, we're talking about that before. The prenup and all that, just like we had to go get our marriage license before we actually did a ceremony. Behind the curtains, that's happening. We're discussing that. We're going to look at the terms of the prenup. What do you think about this? And we could start with that. And if you already out the gate talking about, well, how's that going to sustain us? I mean, how are we going to live off of $3 million? I'm already having an issue. You know what I mean? So you're showing me, but we can't even get past the premarital counseling. It's like, okay, you do not pass go, do not collect $200. This is not happening. And so that's where I would be with it. So yeah, that's definitely a huge red flag. If somebody can't get in line with let's build something together and the money's right there.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Well, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's not even super lengthy, mental health. I thought about it before all of this. I understand, but I didn't even look at it so much as mental health. You just look at it like I need to take a sabbatical, or I'm a little irritated, or, life is happening. And you just kind of go or grow through it. It's just a part of it. But this year, more than ever, the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the stupid stuff that you hear, in addition to what you're going through that other people are doing or saying, and it's directly and indirectly coming your way. You got a lot going on up there. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a creative, so I'm thinking all the time. So I try to have these zone outs. I love watching murder mysteries, whodunit thrillers, things where I can kind of get lost in there and have my mind working on something else so that I can kind of shut it off from processing, thinking, connecting, thinking about something that was said or what I'm going to do here. Or, okay, well, if I want to plan that in 2022, how would that work? I really think like that. So mental health is something that's, man, I had no idea. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Huge. I've been moving, but I think now more than ever with this year, I have become more aware and have a better understanding of the importance of really taking a break. And if you don't know what it is that will assist you in doing that, I was talking to my son earlier. He likes to dance. He crumps. He'll go and do that. And I was like, he really gets out there and drench himself in sweat. But I mean, that has to be amazing to just release that kind of energy that way. Or he'll get lost in an anime, or you and him like have games that have full storylines, Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, Marvel, Dragon Ball Z, like different things. And as I started to look at it, you're looking at it, but you're not really looking at it in depth. When I think of mental health, I always thought of like therapy, and you had to really go and meditate, and I'm always moving. So it's like, how can I really just be still that long? But there are other ways, not even woosah, but you can just kind of give yourself a break from everything. The news is coming in. Every day there's a new update. And then again, like I said, depending on who you're surrounded with, so much going on. Or when you go into places, the energy, it's just a lot going on with other people because of the state of the world right now. So you got to find something where you can just get it off of you. Immerse yourself in something else. I'm finding and kudos to you, Lou is our music guy. He is always putting me up on amazing movie scores, all genres. And I probably drive everybody crazy in the house if I find something that I really get lost in, like the instruments or the arrangement of the song or the vocals of it. If it's not an instrumental, I will put it on repeat and just escape or get lost into that. Like, wow, just the energy of it. I'm exchanging my energy for the energy that was put into that song. Like, wow, music is so amazing. That is a beautiful thing because I've really done that before, put on music and the energy from that song, I'm getting enveloped in that, which means if I'm there, I'm not in the energy that I was in. So really take the time, have a self-check and see where you're at. And it's okay. Be like, I'm not okay. Or check on somebody else and see if they're okay. And then figure out what you can do. You don't have to be at 100, but try to get yourself back up to 50%, because I felt like that. I don't feel like I'm ever fully at 100, because as soon as you get up there, something is taking. So you're just trying to keep yourself where you're not on E. You ever driving a car and you stay half tank?
Oh, yeah.
When you getting things done, but you don't let it go down to E. You go in there, oh, let me stop at the gas station, put some more in there, and you go back to half a tank. You know, and even when you put it on full, you got to drive out the gas station, drive to where you're going, and you look at it's not on full, but it's a little over, but it's still not on empty. So that's what I mean when I'm just saying mental health kind of treat it like the gas gauge in the car. Don't let yourself get on E. And if something's going on, you can't put your finger on it, it could be mental health. Like, why do I feel like this? I feel so uninspired. I don't want to go do this. I don't want to do that. It's a lot going on, and it's a lot of energy around you. And I started to learn about this later. I didn't know this when I was younger. It would have saved me a lot of frustration and my lack of understanding. I think we watched something where it said energy doesn't dissipate, it's transferred. So people are transferring energy all the time. You sitting somewhere and it's just like, oh, why do I feel like this? You got to look at who's around you, what they got going on. And if you're empathic, you taking that on, even if you don't want to sometimes. It's just jumping on you. So mental health, self-check, and you don't have to get back to 100, but figure out what it is to get you out of the red. Bring it back to the middle or close to half. You probably will start feeling a lot better if you can kind of pinpoint, you know, what it is that's going on. But for me, and I think for probably a lot of people, mental health is the last thing you think about. That's just the last thing. You say you're tired, I've been running around, or you'll push it off as like, I'm trying to get things together, I'm unorganized. You put all these things on it, and it's really just mentally, you just exhausted. I had to come to the realization today, it's like they shut down everything that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed going to the gym and they had classes. Yoga I took for the first time at this particular gym and was laid out like a baby. It was yoga in the dark. Then there was candlelight yoga I was looking forward to taking. So it was like, ooh, I got excited. And then they had all this equipment. I love structure. I'm a planner. So they had certain pieces of equipment. It was like, I have my routine. I just would go if anybody else wanted to go, but it was a place I had my headphones on. It was just like my thing. It's not my thing anymore. And then you can't go sit out anywhere. You see these masks everywhere. Your mind is computing that too. You're not seeing people's whole faces. There's smiles. Smiles are energy that's exchanged. You don't even know people are smiling at you. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of different stuff going on. So, I mean, I probably said it 1,000 times now. Just do a check on those around you. But first, foremost, check on yourself and get your ducks in a row. And tell people you need to get your ducks in a row if you come to the realization that, dang, that's me. Get your ducks in a row. Just say, you know what? I can't give anything right now. Like on the airplane, I need to give myself air first before I can give something to you.
Yeah, you end up giving the last of your breath to somebody else. Trying to save them, and you don't have anything for yourself. Oh, yeah.
No.
You definitely have to take that into consideration, not just in this day and time, but just moving forward if you haven't done it before.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. I zoned out for a minute. We've been doing these podcasts at night, you guys. We usually do them at night, but I don't know why it's been feeling like like it's really late when we do it. And it's only like 9.
Daylight saving.
Okay, yeah, the daylight saving. And it's only 9:13, but hey, we're getting it done. We always invite everyone, any of the listeners, first time listener, or if you're one of the regulars, you want to keep this conversation going, shoot us an email. You have any questions, comments, concerns, suggested topics, we welcome it. You know, you can reach us at realfitradio@gmail.com. We also have that sounded funny. Our podcast drops every Monday. You can always catch the latest snippet of our podcast on our Instagram page at Real Fit Radio. If you're not following us, you definitely should be. As always, we hope this inspired, impacted, or empowered someone. Until next time.